my spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And I am, again, last year I had great guests. This year I have great guests, and I have Lavender from Early on Wednesday podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, hello there, and
I love
thank
it.
you for having me.
I love it. And I love your ink, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
As they say.
I probably pretty close to 50% of my body has tattoos on it, I would say.
Nice. I never wanted to do it. Well, I take that back. When I was younger, I wanted to have a dragon on my back, and then it was like really expensive, and I was like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Have any money?
I would say my arm in total is probably a couple thousand.
Wow. I have to ask, I know we'll get into it a little bit, but I have to ask, any symbolism of your tattoos?
Well, I don't know if you're recording, if this is going to be video, but
yeah, I am.
I will show you, so at least you can see. So this tattoo on my back here is the reverse of lace. So when you're looking at lace, this would be the clear part, the see-through part of the lace.
Yeah.
Several years ago, my great-great-grandma died, and it was kind of a free-for-all in the storage unit that they had for her. And everybody's just fighting, and they're taking stuff and putting stuff in their cars. And me and my brother are just outside, like, as people are taking boxes to their cars and going back in for more, we're just taking the boxes out of their cars and putting them in the truck, and we get a truck full, and we're like, we're out of here. So we had no idea what we grabbed. We were just grabbing stuff that looked like, that box looks heavy, we'll take that one.
Yeah.
And so we got a bunch of useless crap, like a box full of Tupperware lids, not all the Tupperware, just the lids, and a box full of Bibles. For whatever reason, this lady had 100 Bibles.
Okay.
And then in one of the boxes was a wedding dress, and it had been eaten by moths and everything.
Yeah.
So doing a little bit of research, it was her grandmother's. So that would have been my 3 greats from mine. So I took the biggest piece of the lace from the dress, and I had that, and I was gonna frame it or something, and getting a tattoo. And he laid it down, and then he chalked it actually with chalk, so it's the reverse of what it was, because then he just tattooed where the chalk was, so it's the reverse of the lace. It ended up being pretty cool. So this part right here was the sleeve from the dress as well.
I love that. It's a great story. Yeah, because I think a lot of people, when they get tattoos, have some type of symbolism behind them, or some type of meaning, or, since we're a paranormal podcast, and I know you do true crime too, protection. So there might be some type of protection that they were doing on. So awesome. So tell my spooky friends about your podcast, what you cover, and what got you interested in doing it.
So it's me and Stacy. Stacy joined the podcast about a year or so ago, and she lives in California, and I'm in Maryland, so we're on totally opposite coasts. So we just, have a blast meeting up once a week to record, and we end up recording for hours because we just bullshit most of the time, but I'm sure you know how that goes.
Yeah, I love it.
It is primarily true crime. Stacy's real interested in cults and and paranormal. She's interested in cults, paranormal, witchcraft, that kind of stuff. So we do, dabble in all of that. And then I'm interested in like cryptids and aliens, and I'm also interested in paranormal. So we dabble in that. Primarily it's true crime, but we do try to break it up and kind of have comedy relief is what we call it, and we'll do like a paranormal or a cryptid episode, especially when we have a real bunch of heavy true crime episodes, kind of break it up.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love your content. Please go check it out. When this episode comes out, all the links to Lavender and Stacy's podcast Early on Wednesday will be out there to go check it out. It's a lot of fun. I've listened to a few episodes.
What was your favorite? What's your favorite episode?
So you guys, I just like to be honest with you, I like when you guys just have fun and talk about cryptids and some weird paranormal stuff. I know you do true crime, but I listen to true crime, a little bit, but after a while, I'm like, just being honest, Lavender. It's like, oh my God, stop it. You know what I mean? Like some of these people are just like, what was it? Like, I want to say Mary, that was Mary Smith, Mary Anderson, whatever her name is. The woman that, there's like some weird anniversary where this woman was in love with this guy. She was cheating on her husband. She took the kids in her car. She strapped them in the backseat.
Susan Smith.
Susan Smith. Why am I saying Mary? Thank you so much.
That's the most recent one we put out was Susan Smith.
That's it. That's what I was listening to. Anyway, I'm like, but
have you listened to the second episode?
No, I have not.
It's about her prison sex life.
What?
She had a ball in prison. She was all over the place. This lady was. She got transferred many times because she was just having sex with everyone. She was. Oh,
now it makes it worse.
It does.
But if you don't know about the story, oh my God, these two cute little kids. And she drives into a freaking lake. Lake? Was it a lake?
It was a lake.
Okay.
Originally, she called the police and said that she was carjacked. A black man, carjacked her with her two sons inside. And then her two sons were missing. Several weeks, she's going on the news, pleading for her sons to come back, all of this kind of stuff. And then they find the car in the lake. And then she comes clean that there was no carjacker. There was no black man. She just drove the car into the lake with her two babies. One was just a toddler and the other one was only a few months old, still strapped in their car seats. And then she just walked away. So
and then she's just fooling around in prison, just banging everybody.
Yeah, she is a piece of work. That one is.
Wow. Hey, have you guys ever covered the case where the guy had his penis cut off?
Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt. Thank you. I didn't see anything on there.
No, that's a good idea though.
That is a great idea.
I feel like that wasn't the first time she'd done something like that, if I'm
absolutely not
remembering the story correctly.
Absolutely not. And stories like that, I don't mean to say they're funny, but it's kind of humorous in the sense of she just chucks it out the window. She's driving with her husband's penis down the road, chucks it out the window. By the way, I forgot to tell you can say anything on this podcast, so it's okay. It's not for children. And I make that clear. Not that it's funny, but it's kind of funny. She's just da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, just throws.
That's what he gets for putting his penis in places that didn't belong.
Yeah. God. Okay, now you scared me, Lavender. It's frightening. But anyway, let's get from true crime. Let's go a little away from that. But do you have a favorite cryptid or an alien conspiracy or what's your favorite that you kind of like to talk about?
I actually have some firsthand encounters with aliens and a couple of different cryptids actually.
All right. Love to hear it.
My favorite though is Mothman. Mothman that one is the most believable. There's been so many sightings of Mothman all over the world right before all of these major disasters. And it makes sense. So that's probably my favorite.
And not to interrupt you, but have you heard of the Chicago, that they're seeing them in Chicago?
Mm-hmm. And, around the airports, right?
Yes, around O'Hare.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, our Mothman episode probably is one of the biggest hits we've done so far.
Absolutely.
That one's pretty funny. Have you listened to it?
Nope, that is on my list to listen to next.
But you'll definitely have to listen to it.
Yeah, I will.
Every time I hear people send me little clips of it all the time, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's called Mothman and Butt Plugs. I'm not exactly sure how we go from Mothman to butt plugs, but It happens in there, and it just goes, and I'll get clips of the red lights shooting out of butt plugs is everybody's favorite part. And Stacy's describing this butt plug with red eyes shooting out of it, and I am just uncontrollably laughing. And I'll just get these clips of me just hyena laughing from just random people.
I love it. It's awesome. Yeah, that'd be unusual, right? Instead of seeing the red eyes, you're like, oh my God, what is that? Is that his butt? Is
Right?
that a butt plug? What the hell? So how about aliens? You talked a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your experiences with that and your cryptid experiences. I'd like to hear that.
So I guess we'll start with the aliens, since that's the first one you brought up. I was in the Navy. I did 16 years.
Wow.
16 years in the Navy. Yep.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I was actually just recently medically retired, so yay. No more Navy.
Okay.
When I first joined the Navy, I was PRP. So anybody that was either in the Navy or Marines knows what PRP is. Basically, it's a program to protect the storage facilities they store nuclear weapons in. And where I worked at in Georgia, I worked in what they called the limited area. And there was only about 1,000 people in the entire world that could go into this. And 500 of us were security forces. And they had these bunkers that they would store the nuclear warheads in, and we'd, have to do all kinds of crazy shit. But they'd open the bunkers and you'd see these bees come out that were like the size of soda cans and stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. So they had it in it. So it's a base within inside of a base. So they've got the normal base, and then there's a whole separate base inside of the base. And they've got 4 towers, one in each corner of this interior base. And each tower is 7 or 8 stories tall, so you can see above the tree line. And it's nighttime. We weren't allowed to have any communication. We weren't allowed to have cell phones. They pat us down. They checked our bags. We went through security just to go in there. They would take everything from us.
Yeah.
And so I'm on night shift. So in order to stay awake when you're up in these towers, because you're up there for 12 to 14 hours doing nothing. Yeah. We've got our little camera, which we can move around, and it records, and we can move it around and look at stuff. And the video feed goes down to the dispatch center. And sometimes they would call you and be like, there's a phone in there as well. They would call you and tell you, hey, go to the east and look, see what's over there. Let us see what you see, kind of thing. But there's no numbers on the phone. They're just pick up, and it rings down to dispatch. So nighttime dispatch would call us all. Whenever they picked up the phone, it would ring up to the towers. And they would be like, hey, you guys are all connected. And then they would just leave their phone off the hook. And then the 4 towers then could talk to each other.
Okay.
And we would sit up there and talk and play games like Fuck, Marry, Kill, or the alphabet game, or just things to stay awake. And so that's what's going on that night. It's the middle of the night. I don't even know exactly what we were talking about. This is 2008, 2009 time period.
Okay.
And it was me and a girl named Diana, and then a guy whose last name is Grant. I can't remember his first name. And then I can't remember. It was some white guy. I can't remember what his name was. Is in the other tower. And one of the guys says, hey, what are those lights that are over by you two? And so me and Diana are like, what are you talking about? And so we both go look. And so I get off the phone at this point. So I have no idea what they're talking about. But I go over and I move the camera over and focus on the lights so that dispatch can see them. And it's 2 blue lights hovering right above the tree line, like headlights of a car.
Oh, okay.
And it's not in the trees. It's above the tree line. And they're blue. In the video that we later saw, it's night vision, so they don't look blue, but you could tell there's 2 lights up there. Then they separate, and one goes off towards Diana, and the other one comes around me. And it is just, so the towers they have a roof on them, but then it's floor to ceiling windows. And it just starts going around me. Just around, and I'm trying to get the camera to go down far enough so that they could see it, but I can't get the camera to go down because it's real close. And it is a black, it reminded me of a mag light. There was no sound, there's no propellers, there was no nothing. It was a black, elongated cylinder looking thing. And the light only came from the one end. So from the side, there was no light. And
Okay.
it's just circling me. And I'm like following it. And then eventually it goes back to where it started above the trees. The other one meets it. They sat there for a little bit again, and then they just disappeared. They just went away. The next morning when we come out of the towers, me and Diana are talking about it, and she said hers just illuminated her tower. It just came up to the window and just shined its blue light in. And it never moved until it went back.
Wow.
Then we ended up having to sign paperwork.
Yeah.
Saying that we, there was a time frame, it was like 15 years or something, that we wouldn't discuss what we saw. And they showed us the videos and then never heard about it again.
Wow. Wow. Did you ever feel scared, or was it just wonder, like amazement?
It was, I guess, wonder. It was kind of like, what is this? I mean, drones wasn't a thing then. I'm sure people had drones, but it's not anything that I ever heard about. I didn't know what a drone was. And thinking about what it looked like now, I've never seen a drone like that. There was no way for this thing to fly. And it wasn't very big, so unless it was, I don't know, bugs in there. It was, the size of a mag light.
Wow. Huh. Yeah. That's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
It was, again, that's part of the military mystique. Like, you guys have to wait so long and you can't report it. Well, now everything's out of the box. It's not a big deal and everything.
Right.
But I bet back then you guys were dying to tell somebody, right?
I know, we were. One of the guys, and I don't remember which one of the ones, because there was 4 of us in the towers, obviously. There was a single person in each tower. One of the guys had said something about it and had talked about it, and he went to Captain's Mast. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's pretty much like going to court in the military, in the Navy. For talking about it. And so the rest of us were kind of like, oh, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I hear you. That's funny that you mentioned that, because I just did an episode on the Dulce Air Force Base in New Mexico. That's the base who has 7 levels on it. It's supposed to have alien hybrids, human hybrids. Oh. There's the 6th floor. It's known as the Nightmare Hall, or the Nightmare Wing, or the Nightmare
That's
Level.
Interesting.
Oh, you should research. Sure.
I'm going to.
You and Stacy would have it, and you're in the military, so you would understand some of the association with it. But that base, it's crazy. It makes Area 51 look like a joke.
What is it called again?
It's called the Dulce Air Force Base in New Mexico, Dulce, New Mexico. It's in a small town, middle of nowhere in New Mexico. Doesn't even have a traffic light in this town, and it's like past the town. This has been around since, some people say, the 50s, if not the 50s. And like, to get into there, just believe what you want to believe. And you're in the military, so you have to tell me. But one of the things is, oh, hi, Kitty.
Yeah, this is cyanide.
And one of the things in there is they literally, to get down to each level, there's more and more security. And one of the levels is, if you have anything on you that's different, you're done. You're fired. You're gone. And some people believe that these people have been killed, that these people have now put on projects. Think about the weirdest horror, sci-fi, crazy shit you've read or saw. It's a million times worse. It's like, people have told these crazy stories. Anyway, it must be something for you and Stacy maybe to do sometime.
I know. I'm gonna look at it. I made a note to look it up.
Yeah, and take a look at it.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, because it's been there forever and nobody really talks about it.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just almost like this weird brainwashing the military has put over. I love my conspiracy theories, by the way.
I could tell.
Over people that they just don't bring it, because it's never really in the news. If you read the research I've read, like, the local papers are like, hey, we have a secret base. I guess you didn't know that, did you? Kind of like jokingly, like. And then if you read Reddit or any one of these other social sites, there are people who have worked there who have said there's crazy shit going on there. Like, really crazy shit that if it gets out, we're screwed.
I
Like,
can believe it. I
yeah.
honestly can believe it. I feel like the military has done like so much research and just especially on the military members. And I don't know if you've heard this, but they came out while I was shortly after I came back from deployment, actually. A lot of the vaccines that they give us, they are now directly linking to PTSD. The vaccines are damaging the brain, which makes it more susceptible to creating the PTSD, chemical imbalance from trauma. So you could get in a car accident and develop PTSD, essentially.
Wow, that's crazy. And one of the things in there too is like they'll talk about silent helicopters, all these different crafts. And my cousin, he was a platoon sergeant in the Aiken Airborne, and he was in Desert Storm #1.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw action over there, and he says that he saw this helicopter, and you know helicopters in the military, they're like deafening, right? They're just like, you know it's coming. And he saw this helicopter, and he's like going across the horizon, and he's like, I don't hear anything. Like,
that reminds me of a story.
Yeah, go ahead.
On deployment, I'm on an aircraft carrier. And so on the aircraft carrier, they have an area that they call the fantail. And it is a little like docking station. It's outside, and it's really not that far up above the water, maybe 10 feet. And nothing really goes on there. That's where like helicopters can land if the flight deck, if all the planes are on the flight deck or something. So it's kind of just places that people just go out to get fresh air or go out to see the sunshine or look at the water and things like that. So we're standing out there one night, and it's a clear night, and we were playing Monopoly or something. Well, we weren't standing, obviously, we're playing a game, but we're playing a board game out there, and it's a nice night. It feels good. It's nice and cool, and there's a group of us out there just playing Monopoly. And next thing you know, all of these guys walk by us just completely dressed in black. And we're like, who are you? Where did you come from? And everybody starts looking around, and a helicopter just goes. We never heard it. And they were a SEAL team.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy because, again, like I said on my episode of Dolce Base, we know NASA invented the microwave oven, invented Velcro, but how did they do that?
I don't know.
Like, where did that technology come from, right? And if you're really into conspiracies like me, which, again, I absolutely love, I'm not a tinfoil hat guy, but I'm, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, in this base, there are different levels where technology is being developed and then put out there. Like, in your phone, like your Apple phone with Siri, right? You say, hey, Siri, that was military technology. And they released it to the public. So, not to get in this rabbit hole or anything, but definitely check it out. I think you and Stacy would have a blast in it because there's a lot of stuff in there that just doesn't make sense. And if you go on Reddit and you check some threads, there's some things, okay, I don't know if you're right about that, but it's still fascinating. It's still really interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested. Definitely got my attention with that one. That sounds good. I mean, even if I sent a text to Stacy, and her response was, I was like, look up the Dolce Air Force Base in New Mexico. And her response was, yes, please, let's do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So let's talk about, before we get into our main topic for today, you said you had a thing about cryptids too.
I do. So I have one big encounter. And now that I'm thinking about it, since you're kind of into the military conspiracy stuff, I'm just going to tell you this one just because it happened at the same base as my cryptid experience. So there in New Jersey, there is a PRP base. They used to store the nuclear weapons there. They moved all the nuclear weapons out, so now they can't get rid of the base. Because normally when they close down a base, they sell it to the public. They can't sell it to the public because of the radiation that's still in the ground from the nuclear weapons. So it's a skeleton crew there. All that's there is military police just to make sure that people don't sneak onto base. So we are bored there. We have nothing to do. It's not a real base. It's not an active base. There isn't people coming and going. There's 100 people there, tops. So this was in New Jersey, and we would take little hiking events and things like that, and we'd mark trails, and we, just entertain ourselves. It's just a big open space with like a bunch of abandoned buildings, so we would just go exploring.
Yeah.
We come across an old jail cell. There's no roads to it. There's electricity to it. That's how we found it. We were following the electricity lines, the electricity poles. We're like, what's out here? There's nothing on the maps marked out here. Yeah. We're following the electricity poles one day, and we're having to hike. There's nothing. There's no roads. We probably hiked about 2 miles in before we found it. We found the old guard shack, and we found a single jail cell, just one. The bed's still in there. The toilet is still in there. And this is a nice jail cell. They had a full-size bed. They had an armchair.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
We start looking through the guard shack, which the guard shack was made out of wood. So the guard shack was completely crumbled by this point. And we start rummaging through everything that we can. And we find a logbook. And in the logbook, it was dated right after World War II.
Oh.
And in it is a bunch of German names and numbers.
Okay.
We start researching these German names, and they were German scientists that worked with the Nazis.
Okay.
So the theory that we all came up with was that this was... because there's the conspiracy that they brought, and I think it's been proven by this point that they brought a bunch of the German scientists to the United States.
Correct.
So
Operation
this was
Paperclip.
some sort of holding facility for them to get vetted, get their documentation in order before they got released or before they were allowed to go do whatever. Because this building, this room that they were in, that they were housed in, it had bars on the windows and stuff. It looked like a jail cell, but it was very nice on the inside. There was a dining room table with 2 chairs. There was a full-size bed, like a full bathroom. Like, this was extravagant for just a jail cell, but it was just for, there was only enough room for one person to live in there, to be honest, but it was just bizarre. So that was the theory that we came up with. And it's on one of my old phones. I have video of it and of the log books with the names and stuff.
Okay.
So at some point, I'll get that put out on my social media once I dig through all of my iCloud stuff and retrieve it. Because this was 10 years ago, so it's been a while. But I do have video of it. So
I love that. Yeah, that's always just weird, right? I love, they have on YouTube a number of different things where they have abandoned places and people go in there, which I'm always like, I don't know how you don't get arrested, but okay. But like abandoned military places, abandoned mansions, all this stuff. And,
right. I like all that stuff too.
That's crazy. And they find all this weird stuff in there, or they go into places where it's like people just left. It's like, we gotta go. We gotta go.
And their clothes are still hanging in the closet.
Clothes are still there. Plates are still there.
There's
everything.
I think the podcast is, what was it called? And then they were gone. I'll have to look it up because this podcast, it's these people that come across this facility and they start digging into it, and there's this whole backstory to it. And if you're interested, I'm not going to give it away, but there's this whole backstory to it that basically is human trafficking. And so this is, they found all this documentation of kids were here and kids were being sold and all this kind of stuff, and it's abandoned. And then they start getting harassed and getting threats, and then they stopped recording. So never find out what's happening, what happens, because they decided that they were in danger, so they just stopped recording altogether. Yeah. But that's a real interesting too, and I think it's called "And Then They Were Gone."
Yeah. One of my favorite things too is there's things on YouTube where Disney abandoned some parks. So like Walt Disney parks are just sitting there, like and you're not supposed to go on them. They have like, hey, you're going to get arrested, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But it's just fascinating. But I like the homes and I like the mansions where people just were like, whatever, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Maybe their mortgage.
Love
whatever.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When my daughter was little, I mean, now I wouldn't be able to get away. We still do it. My daughter's a teenager now. But when she was little, I don't know how many times we got busted. I would take her and we'd find like these abandoned places. We were at this abandoned hospital. It's all fenced off, says no trespassing, all that kind of stuff. And we found a hole. She's like 3. And I take her in there and we find a door that it has a broken out panel. Yeah. So she just goes and unlocks the door. She could squeeze. Sure. I'd send her in and she'd unlock the door and then I'd walk around with her. And we got caught by the cops. And she was just so cute. She was like, "Oh, I wanted to see what the inside looked like, sir." And he was like, "Oh, it's dangerous. You guys can't be here," and sent us on our way. And I used to get out of like getting in trouble all the time. Now I wouldn't be able to because she's kind of an asshole. But
yeah, and you got to be careful of those places too because mold and other air things. So, if you're going to go in there, like I have a lot of my paranormal investigators I've interviewed, they'll go into different places and like asylums, old hospitals.
Yeah, it can be dangerous.
Yeah. And they tell people, just make sure you mask up. Make sure, when you get home, wash your clothes and everything. Just don't throw them in a pile. Wash them. Take a shower. And that's good for everybody.
Asbestos is a big thing too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So, I think I got the perfect topic for you, Lavender. I know you do paranormal, right? You do true crime. So, what if I told you that there have been ghosts who have committed murder? What do you think about that?
Okay, I want to hear this. I want to hear what you have to say. But I don't think if it was a ghost. I'm gonna put it out right now. It wasn't a ghost. I don't think ghosts can manifest enough energy and strength to actually kill somebody. If it is anything paranormal, it would have to be something from another realm or something like a demon or something along those lines, not a human spirit.
Absolutely. So my belief in this, and we're going to read through some of these stories. I'm not going to go too in depth, and then I'm going to ask you what you think.
Okay.
Kind of each story here. But one of the things about it is, like you said, spirits have to manifest tremendous energy to even touch you, pull your hair. Like I've had investigators on, they have been shoved, they have had scratches, they have had bruises, they have their hair pulled. They've had other things like that happen to them, which is scary enough.
9 times out of 10, not much happens after that. If they get attacked and they get scratched or something, generally nothing else happens. They have to go back another time.
Correct.
Because the ghost has exhausted all their energy that they had.
Yes. And, again, it's a lot with Hollywood, ooh, ghosts can kill you and go, okay. But again, it's Hollywood. They're going to do that, stuff.
Well, I think people also use ghosts in conjunction with other beings. I have so many stories. Like I was stalked, if that's the term you want to use, followed by shadow people. And
go on.
So I will give you just the whole spiel. So there's some could be mental. It could not be. It could also be the shadow people. I started experiencing them after my father died. I was back. I'm originally from Colorado, so I was back in Colorado dealing with the funeral and getting all his stuff taken care of. And we're at my uncle's house, and it's all the cousins and my uncle and my brother. We're all sitting around the kitchen, and we're eating potato burritos. If you've ever been to Colorado, then you know potato burritos and green chili is a big thing. And we're eating potato burritos, and my back is kind of catty corner to the stove, to the oven. And I turn to look, and whoever's sitting next to me, I can't remember who's sitting next to me, they go to say something, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a man sitting on the stove, like perched like a cat with its front arms between its legs, like its legs. You know how cats sit? He's a full-grown man, and it startles me to the point that I go to jump up, I knock the table over and my chair over,
Ooh.
and it's gone. And that was the first time that I saw it. Then for years, this thing followed me. And it was 6 foot tall man. I never saw any facial expressions or anything, just solid black shadow. But it moved like a feline. Sometimes he would be walking on his hind legs. Sometimes he would be crawling across the floor, walking like a cat. Anytime he'd come and get next to me, he would climb up. I would be watching TV, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see him climb up onto the couch next to me. He would climb up onto the couch like a cat. But anytime I would directly look at him, he would disappear. He would just kind of fade away, like smoke.
Yeah, okay.
And for years, I would look in my rearview mirror, and his face would be right there. That's all I could see for a second.
Oh, my God.
And then after a while, I started trying to communicate with it and never got anywhere. Never got any sort of response or anything.
Yeah.
But a second one, and he scared me. The first one scared me. I was terrified of it.
Yeah,
the
of course.
second one showed up, and the second one would chase the first one off. It's like the first one would come in. There would be times that I would be in bed, and I would feel him climb into the bed.
Ooh.
And I would turn on the lamp next to the bed, and I could see him for a split second, like right over me, like his face right over mine and stuff. And yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Then the second one started showing up. He would show up after the first one was there. I got to the point where I was trying to figure out what it wanted, so I wouldn't directly look at him. I would just watch him from the corner of my eye and just kind of watch to see what it was doing. And this second one would show up, and like, I don't know how it'll be like a macho man, and like you could see the two of them in like some sort of conflict, but there was never any sound. I never heard him. But then the first one would disappear, and the second one would kind of look at me, and I would look at him, and he would stay there for a second, and then he would disappear. And eventually, neither one of them came around.
Yeah.
They just stopped.
Well, that's good. I was thinking this might be associated with sleep paralysis, but you were awake, so.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, I mean, it was, I wouldn't say every day, but at least once a week I saw it for years. I mean, my dad died in 2015, and I got out of active duty in 2018, and I was working on base in 2018. And I have a vivid memory of I'm in the storage facility, and I'm moving these boxes. As was my job. I was transcribing paper documents to the online version. So okay. I have this box full of files, and I pick it up and I go to move it, and he's standing behind the box, and it startles me, and I drop the box of files everywhere. And this was 2018, so this is 3 years after my dad died. And it was probably 3 or 4 months that the second one started showing up before they both quit coming around.
Interesting. Wow. Well, I just got chills.
I know. I've gone to like psychics. I've talked to like therapists. Therapists think it's PTSD related.
Okay.
Their theory is that it's a form of traumatic amnesia. That I can't remember the person that hurt me. So it manifests in flashbacks as a shadow.
Sure.
That's their theory. I've gone to psychics and palm readers, and they think that it is a jinn.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nasty evil spirit, by the way.
And I have had several different psychics and palm readers, and even a shaman all say the same thing. That I just dabbled in something, because I wouldn't say I'm a Wiccan, but I'm spiritual. So I dabbled in something, caught its interest, and
yes,
it was trying to do whatever jinn do.
Yeah, mess with you.
I don't necessarily know if they possess people or not, but for whatever reason, it was trying to torment me.
Yes. I'm glad that you came out stronger out of this. Yeah, jinn typically want to manifest in your dreams and basically drive you slowly insane.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there to torment you.
Right.
Like, or what we call gaslighting today, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You just kind of mess with you. Just get that little, like, where you're just like in your room screaming your head off. And
right. And
whatever.
that would be what nobody was believing me.
And
so it was, and I've always wondered why the second one started coming around. And I got the feeling that they were both males.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid of the second one. I felt like the second one was helping me. And so I've always wondered why it stopped the first one.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I've heard stories about that where something's trying to be a protector and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So, getting back, actually, we won't get into all 10, but I'm gonna do the highlight because some of these are just unbelievable. So, ghosts, again, like I said, who have been attributed to death. So one of the ones known, and I talked to my UK guest about this, it's called the Hammersmith ghost. Now, this was back 1800s, okay? And what this ghost did was, and there are documented deaths attributed to this ghost. It was the early 19th century in West London, Hammersmith district. And there was this reports of this terrifying apparition. And people claimed they were attacked by this ghost and everything like that. And a pregnant woman claimed to have been attacked physically, and a wagon driver abandoned his passengers and house in fear at the sight of the specter. Now, this spread throughout, in Hammersmith in this district. And one of the things they said that the news spread that the ghost may have been that of a man who recently killed himself before being buried in the churchyard consecrated ground. So in other words, this person killed themselves, committed suicide, and then was put into the consecrated ground. So one of the big things, and I will have to do probably an episode on this, there's a lot associated with it, is one of the things, and this is the UK, everything is haunted. That's how I was talking to my UK guest, and he says, yeah, every pub in UK is haunted. In fact, if there's not a ghost there, they have to close it down. He was just kidding, but you know what I mean? It's basically like that.
Everything in there is so old. They have so much rich history.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So one of the things is there was a gentleman, and his name was Thomas Millwood. This is the gentleman who killed himself.
Okay.
He was supposedly brought to this one back in the day. This is so strange. They would bring him to a pub and examine the body or something, because basically the pub was like everything. It's a brothel. It's like, you postmortems, you get married, all this crazy stuff happens there. Right. And when they brought him there, basically people thought that he haunted this pub called the Black Lion. I don't know if it's still there. And to this day, he still haunts it. And one of the things, though, why he killed someone was they believed that people who saw him would, basically go insane, or something bad would happen to them and they'd be killed. And, to this day, people say that this ghost, the Hammersmith ghost, is still this Black Lion pub, if it's still there, and messes with people. Basically, will move stuff, will bust stuff, will cause a lot of issues with it. And again, like you said, Lavender, could this just be something where somebody's messing with somebody? Sure, maybe it's not a ghost, maybe it's somebody going after the spirit to scare people. I don't know. But just really quickly, what do you think about that? Do you believe that there's this guy that's, you see him and you go insane, or something really bad happens to you, and there's no real deaths attributed to him per se, but people claim they are?
I believe in karma. So I can see, and I also believe in like you can manifest good stuff and you can manifest bad stuff. You can also project positive energy onto others as well as negative energy onto others. So I think maybe this could be a true story. This ghost is just so pissed off that it's projecting all of this negative energy onto others, and it's translating into their bad life as into their lives as these bad things happening to them.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I think. I think it's just some type, and it gets in your head too. You know, you start thinking about it,
and then
just
you're
kind of
spiraling.
Yes, absolutely. So the next one is my favorite one. I got two that are really recent, which super recent. And the first one is called the Thai Window Ghost. So in 2013, villagers living in Tamban, I'm going to murder this. I'm a mushmouth. Thai Sawang in Thailand were so terrorized by a ghost who was in a window who was believed to have killed 10 men in a single space of in a space of a single month. Now, how this happened, this is true. You can look this up. All the men had died under mysterious circumstances, some while sleeping, others apparently dropping dead while walking around. All had been declared by doctors to have died of respiratory failure. Since this is where it gets weird, since none of the men had shown any signs of being ill, the villagers hired a spirit medium who blamed a window ghost for their deaths. The medium then recommended that each resident hang red shirts outside their houses, I have no idea, so that the spirit would be repelled, especially those who only had a single son, since they were most at risk of a ghostly visit. While that may have been the end of these deaths in Tamban, in 2018, this Thai district was being terrorized. Another Thai district was being terrorized in the same way. So these people would see this like woman, like, you know, when you look out your window, it'd be like a woman standing right in front of the window. And when that would happen, men would die. But it, like I said, didn't end there. It went to another district in Thailand. And same
it had
things
something
happened
to do
all
with
over
a
again.
single son.
They said if you were a family and you only had one son, that this would encourage the spirit to kill you.
This sounds to me like a curse.
Correct, right?
Yeah, I think this sounds like a curse.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing about it too is that the men who have died, like a lot of the men, this is weird, wouldn't go to sleep. They would stay awake. They would literally do everything to stay awake. And you can't do that.
Sounds like a scary movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm sure it's kind of like the horror movie. And I'm sure in the military, you had to be, maybe there was something that you had to be up for 18, 20 hours, right? Yeah. Where it was like, after that time, you're like, okay, this isn't good, right?
The longest I've been awake is like 72 hours.
Wow.
And I remember before I finally was like given the opportunity to go to bed, I couldn't go to sleep. I was almost like intoxicated. And it was just me and this group of girls, and we were just laughing. And I remember we were laughing at the word hippopotamus. And we were just saying it over and over, and we were just laughing our asses off. Like we were delirious. But it was like feeling like intoxicated.
Yeah.
And it took a really long time to get your body settled. At that point, your adrenaline is pumping, so you can't fall asleep because now your body is in survival mode.
And the story too, I was looking up this a little bit too, is what they have felt is they felt like this woman was sitting on their chest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it'd be like maybe when your daughter was little, you were sleeping and your daughter would come up and she would crawl on you and she'd stay on your chest. Right? And you're kind of like, okay, but if this was a full woman, you know, even let's say she weighs 90 pounds or 100 pounds, you know, yeah, okay. So these guys
is essentially the night hag.
Correct. That's the way we establish it here in the States, as well as in Europe too. Is known as a night hack, where they will sit on your chest, cause you to basically stop breathing, or have or you wake up and you just feel you can't breathe, and you go to the doctor, and they're like, "Wow, there's something going on. What's going on with your respiratory system?" And you're like, "I don't know. You tell me," kind of attitude. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's a curse. No one, I agree, it's a curse. No one has stepped forward to say this, but here's the thing. Why would the person curse another place in Thailand?
I think it's, I
don't
don't think it's associated with the place. I think it's directed at a specific group.
Men. Okay, yeah. So it's a woman who's been
She's
cheated
been
on,
scorned.
lied to.
Yeah.
That's
The woman scorned.
The woman scorned. So this is my favorite one, and maybe you and Stacy, here I'll give you another one too that maybe you guys want to do this. So this one is in 2009. This is the Jameson family. This is a super weird one. Okay, so in 2009, the Jameson family disappeared off the face of the earth. Their bodies weren't found for another 4 years when their skeletal remains were all discovered lying face down in the woods close to their abandoned truck, and which had been found in 2009. So just to clarify things, they disappeared in 2009. 4 years later, their bodies were found in these, like, not really shallow grave. It was just them laying face down in the woods. So again, just really strange, right? But before their disappearance, the Jameson family had told anyone who would listen that ghosts were haunting them. And,
I know this story, I think.
Okay. And that Matson, their 6-year-old daughter, was in regular conversation with a ghost girl who had met her death in their house decades ago. Now, this is really weird. You can see this on YouTube, by the way. The day that the family disappeared, security camera footage shows them packing their vehicle almost if they're under some type of trance. It's fascinating. This looks like they're zombies.
Right, it does.
No cause of death was determined, and there have been suggestions, which is really weird, that the family members were possessed by ghosts that inhabited their home. Since their bodies were severely decomposed, there was no way of telling what killed the Jamesons, so speculation is still right. These are some of the documented cases I went through. There's 10 of them, but I just went through the top 3. And there's other crazy ones here, but I wanted to focus on some real innocent, recent ones, and kind of real famous ones. The Jameson family. What do you think happened? And why would they go in the woods and lay face down? Like,
well, and if I remember right, because their truck was found and there was a big sum of money in the truck, right?
Correct.
And then the truck was towed, and they were found almost in that same exact location.
Correct.
Years later. That, to me, I think, and we're gonna go way out there.
All right.
I think that they were possessed by something, or that they were given something, and that they perhaps went to a different dimension.
Interesting.
And anyone that looks into different dimensions, time in every other dimension is different than ours.
Right.
So perhaps they went to this other dimension possessed by this ghost girl that probably wasn't a ghost. It was probably some other entity, because ghosts generally, like we were talking about, they generally don't have the energy. That would take so much energy to be able to possess somebody and stay in their body for an indefinite amount of time. Human spirits just don't have that capability. So it had to have been something else that possessed them and then tried to body snatch them perhaps and take them to a different dimension, and it killed their bodies in the transition.
Interesting.
And since there's the time difference, that's why all of a sudden they're found years later. Perhaps where they went to, that spot, is the vortex or the opening, the thin veil, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah, I love that. So here's what's interesting too. In Native American culture, they bury their dead face down. The reason why is because when you're face up, your soul escapes. So Native American people believe they want their soul to stay. So they put them face down so their soul stays there until someone, whether you want to say medicine man, or whatever lack of a better word comes.
And is able to help their soul.
Always help them go over, to transfer over. So that was fascinating to me. And I was like, huh. So what you were kind of saying maybe it lends itself to it. Maybe there was some spirits there, and when they did that, right, they were expecting their spirits, someone to come along and help them take their spirits to where they needed to be. And being that they told people, and if I have to do an episode on this. They told everybody. They were like your neighbor, like they would come over to you, Lavender, and say, "Hey, there's these ghosts, and there's a little girl, and I think they're trying to do something." Maybe you would listen to them, maybe you wouldn't, but most people were like normal people,
right?
Yeah, all right, get off the drugs, like stop drinking, like come on, get your life together. There were other things that people said, being that the money was in there. People said maybe there was associated with some type of scam, some type of con man was messing with them, or whatever you want to say. But there's nothing. They literally just died. They literally just. It wasn't like stab wounds. It wasn't like gunshots. Nothing.
And if I remember right, there wasn't any drugs found in anybody's system.
Correct.
Nobody had any sort of illness or anything like that. There was no signs that this was like a murder-suicide. Yeah. There was no drugs or poisons.
Yes, absolutely. And if you watch the footage, like when you probably moved a lot being in the military, when you're moving, it's a giant pain in the ass, right? Because you put the box over there. Oh, shit, where'd that go? And you know what I mean? And you're putting all these things in your vehicle, and you're like, oh, thank God I'm done with this. This freaking, like, I hate moving. I just can't stand moving, okay? It's just a pain in the ass. But they were just, like, walking like this, like a zombie, kind of like.
The video of them, because I've watched it too, it is really pretty creepy.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I think it's the wife. It's like she's not even really bending her knees.
No.
She's like stiff leg walking, like she has peg legs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you look at that and you go like, okay, let's say they owe people a bunch of money. I don't know. Maybe they're just so stressed out. They just can't take it anymore. But again, they had money. So like, if you're trying
quite a bit of money. It was $40,000 or $50,000.
Yes, it was a considerable sum. Yeah, it wasn't like a few bucks. It was a considerable sum.
Right. It was quite a bit.
Yeah. So again, all these theories, which I absolutely love, by the way, if they're trying to get away from somebody, go ahead.
If I remember right, the things that they took with them were odd.
Yes.
Like, they didn't take any family pictures or anything like that. They took like a box of curtains and just random things that you maybe already had in storage.
Yes.
Like things that you didn't use anymore, like boxes of old clothes or something. That's kind of that's what it reminded me of, the stuff that they found in the truck. It wasn't anything that if you were running away, it wasn't your box of family pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. My other thing is why. I mean, they weren't found like 20 miles from their truck. It was like very close.
Oh, yeah, it was within a couple 100 feet or something, I think.
Correct. So, wait a minute. So this is where I'm kind of like, hang on a second. When you're searching for people, you're going to bring cadaver dogs. You're going to bring some type of dog.
Oh, yeah, they would have been found.
They would have been found.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So they weren't found. So another theory is, and I love this, is the ghost was so powerful that it was like putting a shield around them that nobody could get around them. And then when they died, it kind of went away. I don't know what. Okay. I have no idea about that.
I kind of feel like if they were in a different dimension,
correct,
then they could have been in that exact spot.
Yes.
And nobody would have seen them.
Correct.
I have heard of the theory that perhaps they had wandered off into the wilderness and they were trying to survive. out in the wilderness. Because if I remember right, it was the end of summer when they left.
Yes.
So they initially could have survived out there.
Yes.
And winter hit, they realized that they could not survive out there, and they tried to go back to their truck and ended up dying of hypothermia because they couldn't find the truck since it had already been taken.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a plausible theory,
Yes.
and I do that is plausible to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that they would have. These were not wilderness people. They would have left tracks. They would have left things behind. They would have left a clear trail to where they went, and they would have been found.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are a couple other cases like that before we wrap up here that I want to do on. There was years ago, I think in the 70s, where these boys were going to a basketball game, just regular high school
Yeah, we
kids.
did an episode on them, the Yuma 5.
I gotta check that one out too.
Yep, the Yuma 5.
And so you know the deal. So they find like this, not a cabin, but a trailer, correct? It was like a trailer with its stocked with food and water, and nobody did anything. They just died.
Nope, they just died. That one is interesting to me because I think there was only two of the 5 that actually made it to the cabin. The other 3 died in the woods on the way to the cabin. Mm-hmm. The cabin was something like 15 miles or something from where they left their car. So how they even made it that far in the snow is crazy to me to begin with. Yeah. And the one guy. So for the Yuma 5, I think that the one guy killed them all.
Really?
I do, because there has been one of them that they've never found, and there's been multiple sightings for years following of him.
Yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm. I just love this stuff. It's so great, you know? And there's countless stories like that. There's countless stories where people have said they've been lost in the woods and like a spirit came out of nowhere and led them to whoever.
Follow the Missing 411, I think it is.
No.
Oh, you'll have to look up Missing 411. Missing 411 is, I can't think of his name. He was a detective. He retired. Well, when he was a detective, he kept getting these missing person reports from national parks.
Yeah.
But never do anything with it. Never found these people. When he retired, he's like, these are all connected. And it was things like these people would go missing in broad daylight. Majority of them were wearing red. Their bodies would be found after the search party searched that area. They would go back for a second or third search, and they would find their bodies in an exact place that they had searched previously. They were always naked, and their clothing was always found after the fact, folded neatly and placed on top of their shoes in a different location than the body is found.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to look into the Missing 411 because that one is crazy.
I'll look up that one. That's awesome.
He thinks that it is something to do with alien abductions or something like that. And that these people aren't surviving the abductions and that they're like just kind of disposing of them.
Wow. Well, Lavender, this was awesome. Like I said, I'll put the article in my episode notes along with your information and stuff where you can check out Stacy and your podcast.
Yep.
There's 10 of them. Okay. And
yes, I'm interested.
And so I only hit on like I said, the recent ones and the real famous one that was contributed. But there are other things, a lot in the UK, a lot of weird stuff,
right?
Especially around Jack the Ripper.
UK is so old, so
yeah, right. It was just really bizarre at that time. The 1800s. There's no way you could make me live in the 80s. It was terrible. It was the worst. Everybody's dying.
You had to use an outhouse.
Oh my God, forget about it. I don't even want to know. So, could you tell my spooky friends, Lavender, what do you and Stacy got coming up on the podcast? What are you guys looking into and going to be putting out there?
So, we generally plan our scripts. We do scripts and we do the research ourselves and everything. And then we present it to the other person. And the other person is completely blind to it.
Love it.
I do know that Stacy is working on, they have released I can't remember now, and she's going to kill me because I forgot. It's the cult that the senator went to, and they killed the senator, and then it was like 900 people drank the Kool-Aid.
Jamestown.
Jamestown, yes.
Yeah,
And she's
Jim
going to kill
Jones.
me when she hears this and she
Jim
knows that I
Jones,
forgot.
yeah.
So they have released a bunch of new documents, and she has been like head deep in this, and apparently it is not voluntary suicide is all I know. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. So she's working on that. The most recent one that I am working on is her name is Teresita, and this will be right up your alley. Her name is Teresita. She was murdered and then set on fire.
Ugh.
She then possessed her best friend to point out who her killer was.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I look forward to that. Tell me when that's out. I'm gonna definitely check that out.
That one will be out. We haven't recorded it yet, so within the next couple weeks, probably.
Nice. So again, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you going overtime with me. I could talk to you for hours. It's so great. It's so great.
This was good.
Yeah, this is awesome. Again, please check out Lavender's and Stacy's podcast early on Wednesday. You'll love them. Like I said, they have some very when they laugh together, you'll love it. When they go off on little tangents, it's still very funny. And yeah, if you do see Mothman and there's some butt plugs coming out of there,
you know that Mothman listened to our episode.
You know that Mothman listened. So
he's a fan.
Thank you so much, Lavender. And like I always tell my podcast guests, if you want me as a guest, please, I'd love to come on, talk about anything you guys love to talk about, because it's always fun.
Well, maybe we'll have to plan round 2 on our podcast and we can finish the rest of your list.
I would love that. Yes, because there's some really good stuff on here and some really interesting, especially about female ghosts, which I'm like,
oh, yeah. I feel like it's always the women. We're just feisty and spiteful.
You darn right. Do not piss off a woman in this life or the afterlife. You're in big trouble. That's what I have to say about that one. All right. Well, thanks again, Lavender, and you have a great night and stay spooky. Bye-bye.